My name is Lauren, and about a year ago, I married the love of my life, Jerry. Our relationship has been everything I could have ever dreamed of, full of love, support, and laughter. I felt like the luckiest person in the world. I work as an accountant, mostly from home, and I enjoy my job even though there's more to it than people might think. Jerry owns a car parts business, which keeps him busy, but we still find plenty of time to be together. In our free time, we love hanging out, just the two of us. We also enjoy going to parties, especially with Jerry's many friends, colleagues, and business partners. I always look forward to these gatherings because I enjoy being a part of Jerry's world and meeting new people. One sunny Tuesday morning, I was sitting at the kitchen table, drinking my coffee and checking my emails. Jerry walked in with a big smile on his face. "Hey, beautiful," he said, giving me a kiss on the cheek. "Larry is having a barbecue at his place. Thought we could go, have some drinks, and catch up with everyone. You up for it?" "Sounds perfect," I replied, already looking forward to the evening. We arrived at Larry's house around 9 p.m. The smell of grilled food and the sound of laughter filled the air. As we made our way through the crowd, I noticed a tall, blonde woman I hadn't seen before. She was laughing loudly and seemed to be the center of attention. I turned to Jerry and asked, "Who's that?" Jerry's face changed just a bit. "That's Maria, my ex-girlfriend," he said. Before I could respond, Larry spotted us and waved us over. "Jerry, Lauren, so glad you could make it. Come meet everyone," he said. As we walked over, Maria's eyes locked onto us. She smiled, but something about it felt off. Well, she said in a sweet yet fake voice. "If it isn't Jerry and his wife." The way she said wife made it sound almost like an insult. I tried to stay calm and smiled back. "Nice to meet you, Maria," I said, reaching out my hand. "I'm Lauren." She glanced at my hand like it was something dirty and turned back to Jerry. "Shawnee, darling, it's been too long. You have to tell me everything you've been up to." Her use of Shawnee made me feel uncomfortable, but Jerry quickly replied, "Good to see you, Maria. Lauren and I are doing great. How about you? Still working at your dad's company?" Maria's smile faded for a moment. "Oh, you know me," she said. "I like to keep my options open. Unlike some people who seem stuck." The conversation dragged on for what felt like forever. Maria kept making little digs at me while trying to flirt with Jerry. I did my best to stay calm, but inside, I felt a mix of frustration and sadness. I tried my best to stay calm, but by the end of that first night, I was completely exhausted. After that, Maria kept showing up at our social gatherings more and more. Each time, she seemed to go out of her way to make me feel uncomfortable. One Thursday evening, we were at a dinner party hosted by one of Jerry's business partners. I was talking with a few of the wives when Maria strolled over, holding a champagne glass. "Oh, Lauren," she said in an overly sweet voice, "that's an interesting outfit." I didn't know the librarian look was back in style. I glanced down at my knee-length skirt and blouse, suddenly feeling self-conscious. "I think it's appropriate for a dinner party," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. Maria laughed, the sound sharp and cold. "Of course you do, sweetie. Not everyone can pull off high fashion like me." I bit my tongue, resisting the urge to point out that her dress looked more suited for a nightclub than a dinner party. Instead, I politely excused myself and went to find Jerry. As the weeks went by, Maria's behavior got worse. She started posting pictures from our gatherings on social media, always making sure to crop me out or hide my face. Her captions were like little insults about my appearance or personality. One day, while scrolling through my feed, I saw a particularly hurtful post. Maria had uploaded a picture of herself next to an unflattering one of me. The caption read, "Who do you think is a better match for Jerry? Vote in the comments." My face grew hot with anger and embarrassment as I read through the comments, most of which favored Maria. At the end of her post, she added, "Looks like the people have spoken. Jerry must be crazy to pick plain Jane over a beauty like me." That evening, when Jerry got home, I decided it was time to talk about Maria. "Jerry, we need to talk about Maria," I said as he walked in the door. He sighed and loosened his tie. "What has she done now?" I showed him the post on my phone, and his face darkened as he scrolled through it. "This is unacceptable," he muttered. "I'll talk to her and tell her to take it down." "That's not enough," I replied, my voice shaking slightly. "I want you to tell her to stay away from us. I don't want her at our parties anymore." I looked at Jerry, feeling hurt and frustrated. He ran a hand through his hair, looking a bit uneasy. "Lauren, I can't just cut Maria off," he said. "She's the daughter of a really important business partner. If I banned her from social events, it could hurt my business relationships. So, what am I supposed to do?" I asked, my voice rising. "Just let her bully me?" "Of course not," Jerry said, pulling me into a hug. "I'll talk to her and make it clear that her behavior isn't okay. But you have to understand, I can't completely cut her off without causing business problems." I pulled away from him, frustration building inside me. "And what about us, Jerry? Doesn't our relationship matter?" "Of course it does," he said, looking hurt. "You know you're the one I love, Lauren. Maria is in the past. I chose you, remember?" His words should have made me feel better, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the start of more problems. That night, as I lay in bed, I wondered if our perfect life was beginning to crack. In the weeks that followed, Maria's behavior got worse. Every time we went to a party or gathering, she seemed determined to make me uncomfortable and try to get close to Jerry. She would throw little comments my way or look at Jerry with those longing eyes, and it was starting to get to me. One evening, we went to a cocktail party hosted by one of Jerry's colleagues. I had picked a simple, elegant black dress, feeling both confident and comfortable. But that confidence didn't last long. Maria walked in wearing a tight red dress that was impossible to ignore. Her eyes locked onto Jerry, and she came straight over to us. "Jerry, darling," she purred, ignoring me completely. "You look absolutely stunning tonight." Before we could respond, she placed her hand on Jerry's arm, lightly stroking it. "Care to dance with me? Just for old time's sake?" I felt my blood boil, but Jerry gently pulled his arm away. "Thanks, Maria, but I'm here with my wife. Maybe another time." As we walked away, I felt a small victory, but it didn't last. All night, Maria kept trying to get Jerry alone. She would call him over to talk about business or ask for help with some silly problem. To Jerry's credit, he turned her down each time, making it clear he was there for me. But still, her persistence left me feeling uneasy. It was like she wouldn't give up, and I couldn't help but wonder how long this would go on. Jerry tried to keep me included in conversations and stayed by my side, but the constant attention from Maria was wearing us both down. Over the next few weeks, things didn't improve. Maria's attempts to interfere with our relationship became more frequent and more obvious. She'd leave flirty comments on Jerry's social media, always hinting at their past. At parties, she'd loudly bring up memories of their time together, purposely leaving me out of the conversation. The breaking point came at our friend Jacob's birthday party. Maria arrived late, dressed like she was going to a glamorous event, not a backyard barbecue. As soon as she walked in, she locked eyes with me and smirked. "Oh, Lauren," she called out, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Poor thing. Didn't you get the memo? This isn't a library book club meeting." Laughter spread through the crowd, and I felt my face turn red with embarrassment. Jerry, who had been talking with some colleagues, quickly came to my side. "That's enough, Maria," he said in a low, angry voice. "You need to stop this childish behavior." Maria looked at him with fake innocence, widening her eyes. "Why, Jerry, I'm just trying to help. Someone has to teach your little wife how to dress for these events." Before Jerry could respond, I suddenly felt something cold and wet on my clothes. I looked down to see red wine spreading across the front of my dress. Maria stood in front of me, holding an empty glass and putting on a face of fake regret. "Oh no," she gasped, "how clumsy of me." Though, to be honest, that stain might be an improvement on that outfit. The party went silent, and everyone's eyes were on us. I stood there, feeling humiliated and furious. But as I looked at Maria's smug face, something inside me snapped. "You know what, Maria?" I said, my voice steady and calm. "I'd rather wear this stained dress than spend another minute pretending to be civil with you. Your behavior is pathetic and embarrassing." If you'll excuse me, my husband and I are leaving. I turned to Jerry, who was looking at Maria with a mix of shock and disgust. Let's go home, I said. As we walked toward the exit, I heard Maria's shrill voice behind us. Jerry, darling, don't go. Stay, and I'll take good care of you. But Jerry didn't even look back. He put his arm around me and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, the only person I want to be with is my wife. I want my wife to take care of me. Goodbye, Maria, Jerry said firmly. We drove home in silence, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. Maria had finally shown her true self, and there was no going back. One sunny morning, Jerry came into our bedroom with a serious look on his face. Lauren, I have to go on a business trip, he said. It's important for the company, and I'll be gone for about a week. I nodded, feeling a bit uneasy. When do you leave? I asked. Tomorrow morning, he replied. Sorry for the short notice. It came up suddenly. I forced a smile and said, it's fine. I understand your business is important. The next day, Jerry left for his trip, and I was alone in the house. The week felt long and quiet, so I kept myself busy with work to pass the time. On Thursday evening, my phone rang unexpectedly. It was Maria. Lauren, darling, she said in a sugary sweet voice. I'm organizing a small get-together tonight. Just a group of 8. I'd love for you and Jerry to come. I hesitated. Actually, Jerry's out of town on business, I replied. Oh, what a shame, Maria said, not sounding disappointed at all. But you should still come. It would be a great chance for us to bury the hatchet and start fresh. What do you say? Everything inside me told me to say no, but curiosity got the better of me. I'm not sure, I said, feeling unsure. Oh, come on, Maria pressed. It's at Cottage Inn and Spa. You know the place, right? Very exclusive. It'll be fun, I promise. Hearing Cottage Inn and Spa made me smile a bit. All right, I decided. I'll be there. What time? Wonderful, Maria exclaimed. 9 o'clock, don't be late. At exactly 10 o'clock, I walked into Cottage Inn and Spa. I saw a group of Jerry's friends, 8 people, including Maria, sitting at a table. For a moment, I thought things might actually go well. But as I walked up, my heart sank. There was no place set for me at the table. Maria stood up, her eyes gleaming with a look that wasn't friendly at all. Oh, Lauren, she said loudly, her voice dripping with fake concern. I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. You see, we're full here, no room for extras. She twirled, showing off her designer dress. This is a place for people who belong, Lauren. Beautiful, successful people. Maybe you should try the diner down the street. I hear they make a great hot dog, I said, smiling. The table fell silent. Everyone looked uncomfortable, but no one said a word. I couldn't help but laugh, truly amused by Maria's weak attempt to embarrass me. I turned and called out, Excuse me, could I speak to the restaurant manager, please? The manager approached, polite and professional. Is there a problem here? He asked, looking between Maria and me. Before Maria could speak, I smiled at him. No problem at all, I replied. I was just wondering if I could join this lovely group for dinner. The manager smiled warmly. Of course, madam. Let me get you a comfortable chair right away. He hurried off, leaving Maria fuming. Her face twisted in anger as she snapped. Excuse me. I booked this table for 8 people. She wasn't invited, and there's no room for her here. The manager soon returned with a plush chair and placed it at the table. I apologize for the confusion, but Madam has the right to sit wherever she wishes. After all, she's the owner of Cottage Inn and Spa. A gasp went around the table. Maria's mouth opened and closed, utterly shocked, while Jerry's friends stared at me in disbelief. Jacob, one of Jerry's friends, finally spoke up. But Lauren, I thought you were an accountant. That's how Jerry introduced you to us. I smiled and shrugged. I am an accountant. I handle the books for my restaurant. I don't usually talk about my wealth. I prefer to judge people by their character, not by their bank accounts. Maria's face turned bright red with a mix of embarrassment and anger. The mood at the table quickly shifted. Jerry's friends, who had stayed silent earlier, now eagerly invited me to join them. "Lauren, please sit with us. We'd love to hear more about your restaurant." "I can't believe we didn't know this about you," one of them said. I raised a hand, smiling gently. "Thank you all, but I think I'll pass. I just wanted to stop by and say hello." Turning to the manager, I added, "Please make sure my husband's friends are well taken care of. The bill is on me tonight." As I prepared to leave, I looked at Maria and said, "And Maria, there's a lovely diner down the street. I hear they do a great hot dog. You might want to try it sometime." With that, I walked out of the restaurant, leaving behind stunned silence and a very embarrassed Maria. When Jerry returned from his business trip a few days later, I told him the whole story over dinner. "You should have seen her face, Jerry," I said, laughing. "I don't think I've ever seen anyone turn that red." Jerry shook his head, chuckling. "I can't believe she thought she could embarrass you like that." "You handled it perfectly, Lauren," Jerry said, laughing. As we finished our meal, we both knew that Maria's little games were finally over. I felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Maria's attempt to humiliate me had completely backfired, and it had brought Jerry and me even closer. Several weeks passed after the incident at Cottage Inn and Spa, and life settled into a nice, comfortable routine. The memory of Maria's embarrassment became a funny story Jerry and I occasionally joked about over dinner. One morning, while checking my emails, I noticed something exciting. A message inviting me to participate in the prestigious Entrepreneur of the Year award program, specifically for successful new businesses. My heart raced as I read the details. This was a big recognition for all the hard work I had put into my restaurant. Jerry and I decided to attend the event together. On the night of the awards, we dressed up. Jerry looked sharp in his tuxedo, and I chose a simple, elegant gown that made me feel confident and strong. The venue was stunning, filled with the city's most successful and influential people. We mingled, seeing familiar faces, friends, acquaintances, and many of Jerry's business associates. The room buzzed with excitement. At one point, Jerry excused himself to chat with some colleagues, leaving me by the champagne fountain. I was admiring a beautiful ice sculpture when I heard a familiar voice whisper in my ear, "What are you doing here?" I turned to see Maria glaring at me, her face twisted with anger. "I was invited," I replied calmly, showing her my invitation. Maria's eyes narrowed. "This event is for the rich and successful people of the city. People like me and my father. You don't belong here. Leave before you embarrass yourself." I stayed calm, scanning the room until I spotted who I was looking for. With a smile, I waved to 3 distinguished older gentlemen in fine suits who were talking nearby. As they walked over, Maria kept ranting, but I ignored her, focusing on the men. When they reached us, I warmly embraced one of them. "Dad, I'm so glad you could make it," I said, kissing his cheek. Then I turned to the other man and extended my hand, which he shook warmly. "Mr. Bryan, it's great to see you again." Maria's jaw dropped as she realized who they were. Her voice rose in disbelief. "Daddy, what are you doing? How can you be friendly with her? She's just an accountant who got lucky." The men exchanged glances and chuckled, leaving Maria speechless. Her reaction was priceless, and I knew I had truly proven her wrong. "She doesn't belong here," Maria snapped, her voice full of anger. Mr. Bryan's face turned bright red as he listened to his daughter's outburst. His usually calm eyes were now blazing with anger. "Enough," he thundered, making Maria flinch. He gestured toward my father and said, "This man is Tommy Shelby, one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the country and my trusted business partner. Your ignorant words could ruin a multi-million-dollar deal." Maria's eyes widened in shock, but instead of backing down, she sneered, "Then cancel the deal, Daddy. We don't need to do business with her family. They're beneath us." Mr. Bryan's face grew even redder, and his voice rose, drawing attention from everyone in the ballroom. "That's enough. Your behavior is unacceptable." He pointed a finger at Maria. "From this moment, you're cut off. No more allowance, no more credit cards, and you can consider yourself evicted from that fancy apartment you love so much." Maria's mouth dropped open in disbelief. Mr. Bryan turned to me and my father, his tone soft and apologetic. "Mr. Shelby, Lauren, please accept my deepest apologies for this awful scene. Then he turned back to Maria and said firmly, leave now. You've shown you don't deserve to be here. At that moment, Jerry pushed through the crowd, his face full of concern and frustration. What's going on? He demanded, then, catching sight of Maria, he shook his head in disgust. I should have known. Now I remember why I broke up with you, Maria. You never learned how to treat people. Maria's tough front finally crumbled. Tears started streaming down her face, smudging her mascara. Daddy, please, she sobbed, reaching for Mr. Bryan's arm. I'm sorry. I didn't know. Please don't do this. But Mr. Bryan pulled his arm away. I have business to discuss with my partners, he said coldly, turning his back on her. Goodbye, Maria. As Mr. Bryan walked away with my father, Maria was left standing alone in the middle of the ballroom, crying, her mascara streaking her cheeks. The crowd around us slowly drifted away, leaving her isolated and humiliated. The rest of the evening felt like a blur, but when it was time for the awards ceremony, I found myself walking onto the stage in a daze as they called my name for the Successful Entrepreneurial Debut category. I accepted the award with gratitude, feeling proud of everything I had accomplished. Looking out into the crowd, I saw Jerry smiling proudly and my father nodding with pride. Maria's attempts to bring me down had only shown everyone who she truly was, while I stood there, stronger and happier than ever. I spotted my father and Jerry in the audience. They were standing, clapping wildly, their faces glowing with pride. Seeing their excitement filled me with a wave of joy and accomplishment. In the weeks after the ceremony, life settled into a new, pleasant routine. The Golden Award statue sat on our mantel, quietly reminding us of that special night. Jerry and I continued attending parties with his friends and business associates, and without Maria's toxic presence, these gatherings became so much more enjoyable. The atmosphere felt lighter, the conversations were more genuine, and laughter was much more frequent. One evening, as we were getting ready for another social event, Jerry came up behind me as I was putting on my earrings. Wrapping his arms around my waist, he said, "You know, I've noticed how much more fun these parties are lately." I smiled at him in the mirror. I was just thinking the same thing. It's amazing how one person's absence can change everything. Jerry nodded thoughtfully. Speaking of absence, have you heard anything about Maria lately? I shook my head. Not really. She seems to have completely disappeared. Although, I did overhear Jacob talking to his wife at the last party. There's a rumor that Mr. Bryan sent her to another state. Something about not wanting her to embarrass him or the family business anymore. Jerry raised an eyebrow. Wow, that's pretty drastic. But I'm not surprised after how she acted at the award ceremony. I turned to face him, adjusting his tie. It's a shame, really. She had so much privilege, but never learned to appreciate it or use it wisely. As we drove to the party, I thought about how much my life had changed over the past year. From dealing with Maria's drama to receiving recognition for my business, it had been a whirlwind. Yet, through it all, my relationship with Jerry had only grown stronger. As for Maria, I genuinely hoped she'd find her way. Everyone deserves a chance to grow and become better. Maybe her fresh start in a new state would be exactly what she needed. For now, though, I was happy to enjoy the moment, swaying in my husband's arms, surrounded by friends, and feeling grateful for the life we had built together.